How's it guys, this is Dayvy, ESL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I've kind of combined the ultimate guide to Blank Game Week 33 with the Game Week preview for Blank Game Week 33. As you know, I always like to create these ultimate guides for these kind of special game weeks, the Blank Game Weeks, the double game weeks, and I really wanted to produce an ultimate guide on about Monday evening or Tuesday evening, but as you know, in the footballing world, there was a massive dilemma that came up this week, so I wanted to wait as long as possible to get as much news as possible before pumping out the content in terms of the FPL world. So as you know, that news has kind of been put to bed and we'll be talking about it a little bit later on. So I am going to be combining the ultimate guide and the preview. Going to be talking about the usual preview talking points such as captaincy, looking at the fixtures, but then kind of incorporating those ultimate guide aspects of really looking at an in-depth analysis into those fixtures and maybe talking about sides that you should be targeting. To wrap up the video, right at the end, we're going to be talking about a free hit draft for those of you who are maybe wanting to use the free hit or still do have the free hit. Maybe that tempts you into using that chip for Blank Game Week 33. So if that's something you're interested in, sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. So as I mentioned, a total catastrophe happened. I think it was about Sunday evening. It could have been Monday morning. I can't really recall it. It's been such a train wreck at the beginning of this week. Actually quite good drama to happen for a game week 32 that's been completely drawn out. A single game week over 2 weeks is going to cause your mind to wonder, and at least we did have this drama. So good and a bad aspect about this drama. Bad in terms of the footballing world was coming to an end as we knew it kind of, and everyone was kind of reacting to it and completely against this European Super League. I think it might have actually been better if you were one of those people that lives under a rock and simply just came back for the Blank Game Week 33 deadline not knowing anything, because basically nothing has changed from the previous Game Week 32 deadline. The only thing you kind of have to know if you weren't really caught up with the news is that the European Super League was going to be formed, but then it got cancelled and now it's no longer going to be available. So good thing for the Prem and in turn FPL, because I think if this European Super League went ahead, the Prem would have been changed for a long time, because they were mentioning banning those top 6 clubs in inverted commas, and I mean that would have had a knock-on effect in terms of the FPL world, which is basically what we do on this channel. So those of you who didn't know anything about it, you don't have to worry about it at all. You simply just missed one of the most drama-filled beginning of the weeks that I've ever seen in the footballing world. But now let's get on and focus on Blank Game Week 33. So to go over Blank Game Week 33 quickly and just give you guys kind of a general overview of Blank Game Week 33. There's only 4 teams that are blanking this week, so actually relatively small Blank Game Week, and I think for those of you who have the free hit, because it's such a small Blank Game Week, maybe you don't want to use your free hit chip, that's perfectly fine. Just make sure that you have a full starting 11, because I think most sides will be able to pump out a full starting 11. But the 4 teams that are blanking include Spurs, Southampton, Man City, and Fulham. And when looking at these sides, the 2 that you're probably going to be focusing on, the 2 that you probably own most of their players, is going to be Man City and then also Spurs. Those of us who wildcarded in about Game Week 31, Game Week 32, I don't think we'll have too many Man City players, but definitely those Spurs assets are going to be in a lot of FPL managers. So Son and Kane, if you can just bench those players, that's what I would do. I'm kind of going to go over these 4 sides and tell you what I would do if I owned those players. So already mentioned Spurs. Spurs have lovely fixtures from Game Week 34 onwards. I think Harry Kane won't start tonight against Southampton, but I do think he'll start in Game Week 34 when I think Spurs play Sheffield United. So great fixtures from then to the end of the season. So definitely hold on to the Spurs assets and just try and bench as many as possible. With Southampton and Fulham, I mean, if you guys do own those players, you can decide what you want to do. Just kind of look at their fixtures. I don't know if they have good fixtures or not. I'm not really focused on Fulham and Southampton at the moment, but if they do have great fixtures from Game Week 34 onwards, then maybe just keep them, maybe just bench them. Just make sure that you have a full starting 11, because I think most FPL managers, as I said, will have a full starting 11. Man City assets, I definitely think with those Man City assets, you guys should be looking on maybe shipping them out. The only reason I'm saying this is no, they are great assets. I'm not saying that they're not great assets. The thing about Man City is that they have so many cup finals coming up, semi-finals, etc., that I think there's going to be a lot of rotation around that Prem, because they've basically wrapped up the Premier League title. I know you might be saying that it's never over until it's over, but I really do think that Man City will win the Premier League this season, because their bench can simply win the Premier League in my opinion. So there will be some rotation there from a defensive and an attacking point of view. So I would kind of shift those Man City assets out and maybe focus on some players that you're confident that will be starting every game from now to the end of the season. So that's kind of the roundup and the overview of Blank Game Week 33. Let's get into a more in-depth analysis of the fixtures and the teams that are going to be playing. So as I mentioned, let's first look at the fixtures. I'll be going through each of those fixtures one by one. As I usually do, I've highlighted the fixtures that I'd be targeting with those green arrows, and the side that the green arrows are on correlates to the side that I'd be targeting. So the first game week there, Arsenal versus Everton, lovely Friday night fixture. I think it should be quite a good game. If I do recall, Everton actually played Spurs in game week 32 on a Friday. So a little bit of an interesting one there. That Arsenal-Everton game, just too close to call for me. I know that Everton played well against Spurs, so if you do have those assets, simply just keep them, because I think that Everton's fixtures do look quite nice from game week 34 onwards. With Arsenal assets, I mean, you just simply play them. Everton can also be a little bit hit or miss. Arsenal can be hit or miss, but I wouldn't be targeting this game if I was to use a free hit or those free transfers, because it's just really hard to call this one. The next game I definitely would be targeting, though, that's going to be Liverpool versus Newcastle. Now, they always say don't captain a player in the first game of the game week, but this is not going to be the first game. It's actually the second game, so there might be a little bit of a loophole in that kind of talking point. So those Liverpool assets could be quite likely for a captaincy option if you guys do own a Salah or a Diego Jota. But also think from a defensive point of view, a Trent Alexander-Arnold, even though they're not keeping clean sheets, he's still returning from the attacking point of view. And that's just the thing about Trent and why it costs so much, because you can always return from an attacking point of view, even if Liverpool's defense doesn't look that great. So defensively, maybe less than an attacking point of view. I think the attack should be where you guys focus. The next game, West Ham, Chelsea, a derby here, so I wouldn't be focusing on this game because West Ham have been playing quite well recently, as well as Chelsea. So I think this game should be quite a close one, so I wouldn't be targeting this one too much. But the next game, definitely. Sheffield United officially relegated from the Premier League, so unfortunately they'll be playing in the Championship next season. So it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of continue throughout this season. They could completely be on the beach already, or they maybe want to put up a fight and show why they're in the Premier League, but that's yet to be seen. But a Brighton side that held Chelsea last night to a goalless draw, I think that their assets could be quite nice defensively and from an attacking point of view. Probably would focus on the defense a little bit more. I mean, Sheffield United could come out here and play free-flowing football now that the pressure's off. They are relegated officially, so no pressure on them to kind of perform. So maybe we see them go on a goal-scoring run here, but I don't think against Brighton they'll be getting much luck, so I would focus on those Brighton assets if you guys can. Wolves, Burnley, I think this game's going to be quite boring. If there was a game that I'd predict to be 0-0, it's probably going to be this one, so that's why I don't really like those assets too much. Maybe a defensive point of view, you can maybe look at a Wolves or a Burnley defender. The next game, Leeds United, don't really know what to look for in this one. I mean, can Leeds make it 3 fixtures on the trot where they've put in good shifts? I mean, Man City, they won, Liverpool, they drew, United up next. I mean, they could do quite well in this game. So I don't really know how to predict this game. It's one of those where we always say Leeds are bad defensively, but against the top 6 opposition, inverted commas, they have been looking quite good. But United, they may be held out here, but I don't think so. I think that they will score in this game. I actually favor both of these sides to score. So I think if you want to go for a Leeds attacker, you could still keep them if you still have them in their starting 11. But I think those United assets, I mean, a Greenwood is probably the player that most people are looking for a transfer, but also Bruno Fernandes could be a nice captaincy option. The final 2 fixtures, Aston Villa, West Brom. I am favoring Aston Villa in this one, but it is quite a tough game. I mean, Jack Grealish, no one kind of knows if he's going to be starting or not. The manager hasn't been that clear. Even I think the manager said that he will not be playing in this one, but people kind of have their second opinions and think that he might be bluffing. So if Jack Grealish is featuring against West Bromwich Albion, I think that could be quite good from an attacking point of view for Aston Villa. But I mean, West Brom, an absolute resurgence that we've seen in the past couple game weeks. I think that they're looking great, so I wouldn't be favoring those defensive assets too much, as I do think that West Brom should score in this one. But then the final game is one that I think that you should be targeting. That's going to be Leicester versus Crystal Palace. So Crystal Palace should be safe this season. I can kind of see them rolling over for Leicester in my opinion, and I think that Leicester should win quite comfortably. Maybe just monitor the game tomorrow night where Leicester do take on West Bromwich Albion to kind of give you guys a good indication of how that Leicester team is setting up, and hopefully we do see Vardy and Iheanacho starting in these next 2 games. But these are the fixtures and these are the sides that I would be targeting. Now let's get on and kind of look at a more in-depth analysis into the stats that are backing up these fixtures. So first off, to start the more in-depth analysis into the fixtures, what I did was I went over to fantasyfootballhub.co.uk and I went onto their brand new fixture ticker, and first you'll be looking at an attacking point of view, and then secondly you'll be looking at from a defensive point of view. So to give you guys kind of both bites of the cherry in that regard. So from an attacking point of view, first I sorted this to goals for. So this is basically what they're predicting each side to score, and as you can see at the top of the table there, Leicester with 2.3 alongside Aston Villa. So quite interesting for Aston Villa's point of view, but I just think this is based on the West Bromwich Albion side throughout the whole season. So not this recent patch where they've actually been quite good defensively and from an attacking point of view. This is kind of throughout the whole season, and that's why their rating is so low, and that's why Aston Villa are predicted to score quite a lot. So that's why I said Leicester, Liverpool, that's the teams that I'd focus on here. 2.1 goals expected against Newcastle. So I think those teams definitely would be where I focus on, and then maybe you can take a little bit of a punt on going for a Brighton asset, maybe a Wolves asset if you do favor an Adama Traore, although I think he's got 2 assists in about a year now, so that's not looking too great in terms of the stats point of view, but they do have some other attacking options that you maybe could consider. And then we have United, where it's actually quite interesting that they're expected to score 1.6 goals, because it is a Leeds side that's been quite leaky, and I think if you think about the worst defense in the Premier League, you probably think of Leeds in terms of those stats. I mean, United are quite low there, considering that Chelsea are also about 1.4 against West Ham. So in terms of the goals for, I think I'll be focusing on Leicester, Liverpool, and then also United, but you could squeak in maybe a differential there from an Aston Villa, a Wolves, a Brighton, Brighton, if you guys do feel like that could be quite an open game. Now, secondly, moving on to the defensive rating, this is basically the clean sheet prediction for each team. So you can see again, Leicester are leading the line there with the 0.4 prediction against Crystal Palace, and I think that that's quite a good rating there. I think that Leicester, as long as they look quite defensively solid, they should pick up a clean sheet, although Leicester are also one of those sides that are a little bit hit or miss this season. Liverpool up next against Newcastle, where I think that they could also keep a clean sheet there. I mean, Gucci's back and he looks in form, so that's a little bit of a worry there because I think Liverpool have been a little bit susceptible to those tricky players, and I think he actually could score in this one, and Newcastle overall could score because Liverpool defensively haven't been too great. And then also have Aston Villa, Wolves, Brighton. Those sides kind of pick themselves. I personally would rate Brighton a little higher than a 0.3. In my opinion, they're probably the best odds to get a clean sheet. And when you look at the free hit side, I've actually doubled up on that Brighton defense because I think it could be quite profitable. But in terms of the defensive ratings, maybe just pause the video and look through these teams. If you maybe want to go for a defensive, a free transfer, or maybe you're looking at your free hit side and you want to know how to set it up. So now moving on to the final talking point before the free hit draft, it's going to be the usual captaincy review, and these are my 3 options that I would be focusing on for blank game week 33. So starting off, we got Bruno Fernandes against Leeds. Now Bruno has been on a little bit of a rough patch recently in terms of FPL returns, but I think the stats are still looking good. I mean, the last game week 32, probably wasn't the best for Bruno. I think other players like Greenwood probably outshone him, but I still think he has the potential to do quite well. And I mean, he is one of the most high scoring FPL players in the game right now, so I do think you guys shouldn't be ignoring him. And I mean, if you guys still have him in your starting 11 in your FPL squads, you could definitely look at him as a captaincy, because I think this week it's probably going to be quite split between Salah and Bruno Fernandes. The next differential option that you guys could look at is going to be Iheanacho, and he plays Crystal Palace. We've mentioned how good that fixture is going to be. I just personally prefer Iheanacho to Jamie Vardy. Right now the stats are looking better, the FPL returns are looking better, so no brainer. If you do want to go for a Leicester attacker, definitely go for Iheanacho, as I think he's basically undroppable if you guys are worrying about a little bit of rotation. So I think that's probably the outside punt that I would be looking at, but I think most people will go for the Egyptian wing, and that is Mo Salah, as he has Newcastle at home for Liverpool. Now, Liverpool's scoring record at Anfield this season actually hasn't been that great. So if you guys are one of those history managers that look at the patterns, look at the entire season as a whole, you probably won't be looking at a Mo Salah, but I definitely think he'll be the most captain option for blank game week 33. And in my opinion, I actually think he's going to be the best option as well. So that's probably who I'll be going with when I think of my own squad. And it's actually quite nice going for a Mo Salah finally. Haven't captained him in a while, so I'm hoping that he ends up returning. Now going on to the predictor tool from fantasyfootballhub.co.uk that'll also help our captaincy decision. What I did was I grouped Trent Alexander-Arnold and Mo Salah together because they are from the same side, and I wanted to give some variance in here. But I will let you know that there was a lot of Liverpool attackers and defenders on this top predictor tool. I just kind of took them out because I wanted a little bit of variance in terms of the sides. So Mo Salah definitely predicted to score the most points there. 6.9 projected points, which I think you'll definitely take as a captaincy option. But then what's interesting to see is that there's also Trent Alexander-Arnold. So maybe if you want to go for an outside punt, I never say captain a defender, but right now his stats are looking absolutely incredible. And I think if you look at those chances created, he will definitely be on for a massive haul in the upcoming game weeks. And I mean, it could be against Newcastle, probably one of the best fixtures to kind of target for a Liverpool defender. So he's predicted to score 5.6 points. And the next 3 players are going to be Jamie Vardy, Fernandes, and Watkins. So Jamie Vardy, probably it's going to be a whole season prediction. Yeah, he's actually done a really good job this season, kind of dropped off recently though. But if you were to replace Iheanacho with Jamie Vardy, I think that'll probably be more of a realistic expectation in terms of points scored for this game week. The next 2 players, as mentioned, Bruno Fernandes and Watkins. I mean, Watkins is a really outside punt there. I don't think there's going to be too many of you guys who do end up captaining Ollie Watkins, but I think that Bruno Fernandes definitely should be in that conversation if you guys do still own him. Now going on to my free hit side, and this formation will basically be a 3-4-3. You can just look at the right side and go to the left because that's basically going to be the starting 11. What I mean by that, it's going to be Trent Alexander-Arnold, Dunk, and Pereira as my starting defenders, and then it's only going to be Smith Rowe on the bench. Now just don't look at the bench too much here. I simply made the squad quite quickly and I targeted the players that I want to target, and I expect all of these players to start in the starting 11 of their respective club. But obviously just stay tuned to those fixtures happening tonight and tomorrow if you guys want to keep up to date with those injury news. But as I mentioned, Brighton defense against Sheffield United definitely would be one of the points that I do target, and that's why I've gone for Sanchez and Dunk as my double up. Completing the defense, we've gone for Pereira and Alexander-Arnold, 2 really attacking defenders. And I mean, just the fact that Leicester are playing Crystal Palace leads me to believe that there could be a clean sheet in that one, and that's how I've gone from it. I mean, we've already spoken about TAA too much this video, so I'm not going to touch on him too much, but I just want to say that he's going to be scoring a lot of points in game week 33, I do predict. The midfield is where you guys can go a little bit more differential. I went really boring and really template. I've gone for Salah and Jota as my double up, and then I've also gone for Greenwood Greenwood and Bruno Fernandes as my double up from United. I think that Greenwood is in great form. He seems to do this every single FPL season towards the end of the season. Shows great stats, great form, great returns. So I think you guys have to jump on him while he's red hot. Then also Bruno Fernandes. I mean, just that main talisman at United. A little bit dropped off recently. I think Cavani could be maybe more of a talisman. Rashford may be considered more. But I think definitely over the whole season has been their main attacking outlet. And that's why I've included him here. And then the front line kind of picks itself in my opinion. I've got Vardy, I've got Iheanacho, I've got Watkins. You could maybe squeeze a Cavani in here, but I think they may favor a more attacking side in terms of pace than maybe a headerer, and that's what Cavani is. So I think that Greenwood might get the shot in this game because of his good form and his pace in behind. But I mean, Vardy, Iheanacho, Watkins, I don't think you can go wrong with that front line, and I think they should offer some good FPL returns if you guys are free hitting in blank game week 33. So this is basically a wrap of the video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like it if you did, and subscribe if you're new. Have not subscribed yet. I'll be seeing you guys tomorrow for the team selection for blank game week 33, and then hopefully a deadline with Dayvy live stream. Apologies that I didn't do a deadline with Dayvy live stream last Friday. I just kind of thought that that game week kind of picked itself. We all were going to go with a Kane or a Son captain, and I mean, there's nothing much to talk about when the captaincy is kind of set and forget. So hopefully we do one this week, but no promises, and I'm already signing off. It's me, Dayvy FPL, and I'm out. Cheers, bye.